Welcome, traveler, to a journey through the realms of dragons. For the next few hours, let yourself drift into worlds where these magnificent beings soar through ancient skies, hoard treasures beyond imagining, and shape the very fabric of reality itself. Tonight, we'll explore the legends and lore of dragons across countless fantasy worlds, from the frost-bitten peaks of Skyrim to the war-torn continents of Azeroth. From the pages of Tolkien's Middle-earth to the digital battlefields of Final Fantasy, we'll discover dragons who are immortal souls, world shapers, guardians, and gods. So settle in, get comfortable, and let your mind wander. There's no need to remember every detail, no test at the end of this journey. Simply let the stories wash over you like waves, each fact a gentle ripple carrying you deeper into rest. The dragons will watch over your dreams tonight, as they have watched over worlds for eons uncounted. Close your eyes if you wish. Breathe deeply. And let us begin our exploration of these eternal, magnificent beings. Chapter 1. The Eternal Essence. Dragon Souls and Origins. In the mists of fantasy worlds, dragons are more than beasts. They are eternal souls woven into the fabric of reality itself. Across countless realms and stories, these magnificent creatures exist not merely as animals of great power, but as fundamental forces of nature, embodiments of creation's oldest mysteries, and guardians of secrets that predate the very concept of mortality. Consider the frozen peaks and ancient ruins of Skyrim, where dragons soar through northern skies with wings that blot out the sun. Here, these creatures possess a form of immortality that transcends our understanding of life and death. When a dragon falls in battle, its body may crumble and its scales may scatter to the wind, but its essence, its very soul, remains intact, waiting. Over time, that soul can find its way into a new form, resurrecting the dragon to fly once more. It is a cycle that could continue indefinitely, an eternal return that makes dragons truly immortal. But there exists one exception to this cosmic rule: the Dragonborn, a mortal blessed with the soul of a dragon. When a Dragonborn slays a dragon, something extraordinary occurs. The dragon's soul doesn't drift away to await rebirth. Instead, it is drawn inexorably into the Dragonborn, absorbed completely, and in that absorption, the dragon meets its final end. This is the only true death a dragon can know, to have one's soul consumed by another who shares the same fundamental nature. And what happens when a Dragonborn absorbs these ancient souls? Each dragon's essence carries within it knowledge written in the language of creation itself. The Thu'um, or dragon shouts. These are not mere spells or incantations, but words of power that reshape reality through their utterance. By absorbing dragon souls, the Dragonborn unlocks these abilities one by one. The power to breathe fire that can melt stone, to slow the very passage of time, to shout with such force that enemies are thrown back like leaves in a storm. Each soul absorbed is a library of draconic magic made manifest, ancient power transferred from one being to another in a moment of eternal consequence. In other realms, humanity has sought ways to stand against such eternal power. In the world of Dragonlance, where chromatic dragons serve the Dark Queen and metallic dragons fight for balance, and good, ordinary knights faced an impossible challenge. How does one pierce scales harder than castle walls? How does flesh and steel stand against creatures who have lived for millennia and commanded magic since before human civilization began? The answer came in the form of divine intervention and masterful craftsmanship combined, the creation of the Dragonlance itself. This is no ordinary weapon, but an artifact specifically forged to pierce dragon scales, channeling divine power through its length. In the hands of a knight, the Dragonlance becomes an equalizer, transforming mortals into dragon slayers capable of challenging even the mightiest of chromatic dragons. It represents a turning point in the eternal struggle between dragons and the younger races. Proof that, with the right tools and sufficient courage, even the eternal can be challenged. But dragons' relationship with eternity takes many forms. In the vast digital world of Azeroth, where World of Warcraft's epic tales unfold, there exist beings known as the Dragon Aspects. These are dragons whose souls were touched and empowered by the Titans themselves, godlike beings who shaped the world in ages past. This divine empowerment elevated the Dragon Aspects far beyond their kin, transforming them into near-divine guardians, each entrusted with a fundamental aspect of reality itself. Alexstrasza, the Lifebinder, whose soul governs nature and all living things. Nosdormu, the Timeless One, whose very essence is intertwined with the flow of time. Ysera, the Dreamer, whose soul wanders the Emerald Dream, the blueprint of nature itself. Maligos, once keeper of magic itself, whose soul understood the weave of arcane power better than any mortal could hope to. And Neltharion, who became Deathwing, whose connection to the earth was corrupted into destructive madness. These dragon aspects show us that dragon souls can be more than individual consciousness. They can become pillars upon which entire aspects of reality rest. In the Earthsea Archipelago, where Ursula K. Le Guin's masterful tales unfold, dragons embody something even more fundamental. Here, dragons are portrayed as beings closer to the primal language of creation than humans could ever be. This true speech. The language in which true names hold power, where words are not symbols but reality itself, flows naturally from dragons. They do not learn it as humans must. They are born speaking it, understanding it, being it. A dragon's true name is bound up with the very magic that shapes the world's reality, making them not just powerful creatures, but living embodiments of creation's first words. They are older than human language, existing before our words could even attempt to describe them. To hear a dragon speak in the true speech is to hear the voice of the world itself, dangerous and beautiful in equal measure, a reminder that there are forms of wisdom and knowledge that predate humanity by eons uncounted. This ancient wisdom manifests in different ways across different worlds. In the neon-lit streets and corporate towers of Shadowrun, where magic has returned to a cyberpunk future, great dragons are not mindless beasts, but immortal, cunning intellects. Their souls carry knowledge across ages, memories of centuries stacked upon centuries. A great dragon might remember the rise and fall of nations, the way we remember what we had for breakfast. This longevity allows them to work schemes of breathtaking subtlety and patience, manipulations that span corporations, nations, and multiple metahuman lifetimes. By the time the pieces fall into place, those who first opposed the dragon's plans are long dead, and their grandchildren are unknowingly carrying out the final moves. In a world of instant communication and quarterly profits, great dragons think in terms of decades and centuries, their immortal souls granting them a perspective that makes them perhaps the most dangerous players in the game of power. Sometimes, the line between dragon and other beings blurs in fascinating ways. In the Breath of Fire video game series, we encounter the Dragon Clan individuals who carry draconic souls within human forms. These protagonists possess the ability to transform, to invoke their draconic essence, and take on dragon forms that unleash devastating magical power. It's a reminder that dragon souls need not always inhabit scaled bodies. Sometimes they sleep within forms that walk on two legs, speak human languages, and live among us, only revealing their true nature when the world's need is greatest. The transformation is not merely physical, but spiritual. The human form melts away to reveal what was always there beneath, a dragon soul that had been waiting, patient and powerful. Yet not all dragon souls remain pure and uncorrupted. In the dark fantasy world of Dungeons and Dragons, powerful necromancers have discovered terrible rituals that can trap a dragon's soul, binding it to undeath through phylacteries or enchanted gems. These Dracolishes are abominations, dragons whose souls have been corrupted into fueling necromantic magic, their eternal nature twisted into an undead mockery of life. They possess all the power and cunning of living dragons, but stripped of whatever nobility or natural order once governed them. A Dracolich is eternity perverted, a dragon soul forced to serve dark magic rather than embodying the primal forces of creation. They are reminders that even something as fundamental as a dragon's soul can be corrupted, enslaved, and transformed into something terrible. In the ash-covered world of Dark Souls, we find dragons that represent something perhaps even older. The everlasting dragons that ruled before the Age of Fire, before the very concept of life and death as we understand it existed. These ancient beings were beyond mortality in ways that even other fantasy dragons cannot claim. They existed in a gray, timeless world of stone and fog, unchanging and eternal. When fire came and the Age of Gods began, most of these everlasting dragons were destroyed, but some remnants remained. The stone dragon resting in Ash Lake, its scales gray and ancient, represents a living memory of that primordial age. A creature so old it remembers a time before. Time itself had meaning, an ageless remnant of creation's first draft. Dragons' eternal nature sometimes grants them the wisdom to move unseen among shorter-lived races. In the world of The Witcher, golden dragons like Villantretenmerth possess the rare ability to shapeshift into human form. This is not mere disguise, but a complete transformation that allows them to live among people, to walk through cities unrecognized, to observe and judge the actions of mortals without revealing their true nature. Imagine the perspective this grants. A being of immense power and ancient wisdom, able to experience the world from the viewpoint of the very creatures they might otherwise dominate or destroy. Villantretenmerth has used this ability to develop a deep understanding of humanity, to fall in love even, to make choices about when to intervene and when to let mortals solve their own problems. It's a form of eternity that embraces rather than rejects the ephemeral, finding meaning in the brief lives of humans even while knowing one will outlast them all. The relationship between dragons and primordial language appears again and again across fantasy realms. In Earthsea, this concept reaches perhaps its fullest expression. Dragons speak the true speech more naturally than humans ever could, not because they learned it better, but because they are closer to what it represents. They embody ancient, dangerous wisdom that existed before human civilization, before human language, before humans themselves. To hear a dragon speak is to hear the old words, the true words, the words that were spoken when the world was young and magic and reality were not yet separate things. In the world of Monster Hunter, elder dragons take on a different aspect of primordial power. These creatures embody fundamental forces of nature itself, not through conscious choice or divine appointment, but through their very being. They are earthquakes given form, hurricanes with wings, living natural disasters. They awaken every century or so, emerging from their long slumbers to reshape landscapes with elemental fury. Mountains crumble in their wake. Forests burn or freeze. Oceans rise. They are not evil in any meaningful sense. They are forces of nature, as inevitable as the changing seasons, as unstoppable as time itself. Their century-long cycles of sleep and awakening are the heartbeats of the world, each awakening a reshaping of the natural order. And finally, we find dragons whose pursuit of eternity drives them to betrayal and madness. In the world of Dark Souls, Seath the Scaleless stands as a tragic figure. A dragon born without the stone scales that granted his kin their immortality. Consumed by envy and desire for the eternal life denied him by birth, Seath pursued forbidden knowledge, conducting terrible experiments with ancient crystals in a desperate quest for the immortality that should have been his birthright. His quest drove him to betray his own kin, siding with the gods in their war against the everlasting dragons, trading treachery for the promise of eternal life and forbidden knowledge. In the end, Seath did achieve a form of immortality through his crystal experiments, but at the cost of his sanity and his soul. He became a blind, mad thing, surrounded by the results of his twisted research, a cautionary tale about the dangers of pursuing eternity at any cost. These are the eternal essences of dragons across fantasy's greatest realms, souls that transcend death, embody creation's oldest languages, channel divine power, and carry wisdom across ages uncounted. They are more than creatures, more than monsters to be slain or forces to be harnessed. They are eternity itself, made manifest in scale and wing and fire. Chapter 2. Bodies of Wonder. Dragon Biology and Forms. But what lies beneath their immortal souls? Let's delve into the bizarre biology that makes dragons the ultimate enigmas of fantasy. Dragons aren't just spirits, they're living marvels, with bodies that defy nature and adapt in extraordinary ways. When we imagine a dragon breathing fire, we often picture it as simply as a creature exhaling flame. But the reality in many fantasy worlds is far more intricate and wondrous. Deep within a dragon's chest cavity lies what some scholars call a prime furnace, a specialized internal organ unlike anything found in ordinary creatures. This remarkable biological structure doesn't generate heat the way warm-blooded animals do. Instead, it metabolizes raw magic itself, converting the ambient mystical energy that permeates fantasy worlds into pure elemental force. The type of element produced depends on the dragon's nature and lineage. For a red dragon, the prime furnace transforms magic into roaring flames, hot enough to melt stone. For a white dragon, that same organ produces intense frost that can freeze a man solid in moments. Black dragons generate caustic acid that dissolves flesh and metal alike, while blue dragons channel crackling lightning through their bodies. It's a biological marvel that replaces mundane metabolism with something far more extraordinary. These creatures don't just breathe fire, they are living conduits for the fundamental forces of nature. And the dragon's body reflects its element in ways both subtle and profound. Consider how a dragon's scale color connects to its internal physiology in fascinating ways. Red dragons, those magnificent creatures of flame and fury, have blood that runs with trace amounts of metallic compounds. These metals circulate through their veins, making their blood run slightly warmer than it should, giving it an almost metallic taste, creating a living furnace within. Their scales shimmer with that inner heat, radiating warmth even when the dragon rests. Blue dragons, on the other hand, have developed something entirely different: crystalline deposits that form naturally within their bone structure. These crystals aren't decorative, they serve a vital function, acting as natural lightning rods and biological capacitors. When lightning courses through a blue dragon's body, these crystalline structures store and channel that energy, allowing the dragon to unleash it in devastating arcs of electricity. The dragon's entire skeleton becomes a living circuit, a biological battery charged with the power of storms. But perhaps most intriguing is the way some dragons have evolved beyond traditional nutrition entirely. In certain fantasy realms, dragons have developed the ability to digest emotional energy rather than physical food. They feed on intangible things: greed, fear, awe, desire. When creatures approach a dragon's hoard, their covetous thoughts, their terror, their overwhelming sense of wonder at the dragon's magnificence, all of this becomes sustenance. The dragon absorbs these emotions slowly, almost unconsciously, drawing nourishment from the psychological impact of its presence. This remarkable adaptation explains how ancient dragons can sleep for centuries atop their treasure hoards without starving. They're not truly sleeping in the way we understand it. They're basking in a slow, constant flow of emotional energy generated by every creature that has ever feared them, coveted their gold, or stood in awe of their power. The hoard itself becomes a lure, drawing potential sources of sustenance even while the dragon slumbers. As dragons age, their biology undergoes dramatic transformations that reshape their entire form. A wormling, a newly hatched dragon, is a creature of different proportions entirely than its ancient ancestors. These young dragons are agile and overwinged, their wings disproportionately large compared to their small bodies, much like a bat. This gives them incredible maneuverability in the air, allowing them to dart and weave with a grace that belies their predatory nature. As they mature into young adults, their proportions shift. They become optimized for flight and hunting, with streamlined bodies perfectly balanced for long-distance travel and aerial combat. But the truly ancient dragons, those that have lived for millennia, undergo perhaps the most dramatic change of all. They gradually shift toward a more serpentine anatomy, growing longer and more massive until they reach sizes that rival mountains. Their wings, once their primary means of movement, become almost vestigial. These elders barely need to fly at all. They move through the earth like living earthquakes, or coil around mountain peaks like scaled ranges unto themselves. Age doesn't just bring wisdom to dragons, it fundamentally rewrites their biology. The scales themselves, those armored plates that protect a dragon from harm, are far more than simple defense. In many fantasy worlds, dragon scales function like arcane mirrors, possessing properties that make them perhaps the most sought-after magical material in existence. When the spell strikes certain dragon scales, the magical energy doesn't penetrate. Instead, it refracts, bending and scattering into harmless light shows, beautiful and useless. Other scales can partially absorb incoming magic, storing that energy within their crystalline structure to be used later by the dragon for its own purposes. The dragon becomes a living battery for magical energy, growing stronger with each spell cast against it. Most remarkable of all are scales that possess a form of memory. These enchanted plates can remember specific spells that strike them, storing the magical pattern within their structure. The next time the dragon is struck by a similar spell, these scales echo the magic back at the caster, turning their own power against them. Imagine facing a dragon and hurling your most powerful fire spell at it, only to have those flames reflected back at you moments later, your own magic become your undoing. The dragon's mind itself is a wonder of biological engineering. In certain fantasy settings, what we think of as a dragon's brain is actually something far more complex, a cluster of semi-independent lobes, each specialized for different cognitive tasks. One lobe handles the incredibly complex mathematics and spatial awareness required for flight, making instantaneous calculations about wind speed, air pressure, and wing angle that would overwhelm any human mind. Another lobe is dedicated entirely to spellcasting, processing, and manipulating magical energies with the same unconscious ease that we breathe. A third manages the hoard, tracking every coin, every gem, every artifact with perfect recall, knowing instinctively if even a single copper piece goes missing. Yet another specializes in social manipulation, reading micro-expressions and vocal tones, predicting behavior and crafting words with devastating precision. This distributed intelligence gives dragons an eerie quality, as if several minds operate within one skull, each an expert in its domain, working in concert to create an intelligence that is both alien and terrifying in its efficiency. Even more mysterious is the way dragons acquire knowledge. Popular lore in many fantasy worlds suggests that dragon bones store ancestral memories, encoded somehow within the very structure of their skeleton. A dragon doesn't learn language the way a human child does, struggling with grammar and vocabulary. Instead, as its bones grow and harden, it wakes up to knowledge that was always there, sleeping within its marrow. Ancient draconic words surface in its mind without being taught. Spells its ancestors knew suddenly become accessible. The dragon experiences not learning, but remembering, accessing a vast library of knowledge encoded in its species over countless millennia. Each generation's experiences and wisdom are written into the genetic memory of dragonkind, stored in bone and passed down through blood. Some dragons undergo transformations that are almost alchemical in nature. As certain fire dragons age, they don't simply grow larger. They fundamentally change their elemental nature through a process resembling molting. The aging dragon's scales begin to crack and glow with inner heat. And then, in a moment of volcanic fury, the dragon sheds its entire outer layer in an eruption of flame and lava. When the fire clears and the smoke dissipates, a new dragon emerges. No longer a creature of simple fire, but transformed into a magma dragon, or perhaps an ash dragon. Its nature evolved to reflect the deepest, most primal aspects of flame. The discarded shell, meanwhile, doesn't simply crumble to dust. Those scales, infused with years of absorbed magic and elemental energy, harden into some of the most powerful magical armor imaginable. Brave or foolish souls who dare to claim these molted scales can forge armor that carries a fraction of the dragon's former power, protection imbued with the very essence of draconic might. Within the bodies of some dragons dwell even stranger things, tiny, magical symbiotes that most would never suspect exist. These microscopic organisms live in the dragon's lungs or stomach, processing raw mana from the environment and refining it into a form the dragon can utilize. It's a relationship both symbiotic and essential. The parasites gain shelter and sustenance, while the dragon gains access to magical energy it might not otherwise be able to process. But if these symbiotes are somehow removed and kept alive outside their host, they can become dangerous in their own right, growing into magical creatures with their own will and power, or serving as rare and valuable alchemical ingredients for those who know how to harvest them. They represent a hidden ecosystem within the dragon's body, invisible architects of its magical might. The most legendary elder dragons possess perhaps the strangest anatomical feature of all hearts that don't fully exist in our reality. These ancient beings have grown so powerful, so suffused with magic, that their hearts partially exist in an adjacent magical dimension. The physical heart in the dragon's chest continues to beat, yes, but it's only half the truth. The true heart exists, half a step, out of reality, anchored in the physical world, but extending into magical space. This is why these legendary elders are nearly impossible to kill. A warrior might pierce the dragon's chest, might drive a sword through where the heart should be, and yet the dragon fights on. The blade passes through the physical echo, while the true heart continues beating in its pocket dimension, pumping blood and magic through the dragon's body until its incredible regenerative powers can heal even the most grievous wounds. To truly kill such a dragon, one would need to somehow reach across dimensions, striking at the heart in both realities simultaneously, a feat that borders on the impossible. In the magical world of Harry Potter, dragons take on a somewhat different nature. Powerful and dangerous, certainly, but treated more as beasts than beings. The Hungarian horntail, with its spiked tail and aggressive temperament, serves as a living obstacle in the Triwizard Tournament, a challenge to be overcome rather than an intelligence to be reasoned with. These dragons are forces of nature, spectacular and deadly, but they exist in that world as magical animals, albeit extraordinarily dangerous ones. They remind us that not all fantasy dragons possess the godlike intelligence and cosmic significance of their cousins in other realms. Sometimes, a dragon can simply be the most magnificent predator in a world of magical creatures. The dragons of the How to Train Your Dragon universe showcase incredible biodiversity within their species. The Night Fury, the rarest and most elusive of dragon types, possesses abilities that make it the apex predator of its world. Toothless and his kin can retract their teeth, creating a smooth jaw that seems almost harmless until those teeth snap back into position. But their most devastating weapon is their plasma blast. Not fire in the traditional sense, but superheated projectiles of energy that explode on impact with the force of bombs. Their black scales make them nearly invisible against the night sky, and their incredible speed and maneuverability make them ghosts in the darkness. There one moment, gone the next, leaving only destruction in their wake. In worlds inspired by Monster Hunter, we find dragons whose very presence corrupts and transforms. The Gore Magala is a creature of nightmare and beauty intertwined. As it moves, it sheds iridescent scales that float through the air like dark snow. These scales carry a terrible property. They induce a frenzy in any creature they touch, driving beasts into berserk rages. The Gore Magala itself can transform, shifting from its initial form into a shadowy wyvern that releases spores like pollen, these particles spreading madness wherever they drift. It doesn't just hunt its prey, it transforms the entire ecosystem around it into a weapon, turning every animal in the vicinity into a frenzied combatant. We return to Seath the Scaleless from Dark Souls, whose body tells the tragic story of his obsession. Born without the stone scales that granted his kin immortality, Seath experimented endlessly with crystals in his desperate quest to transcend his mortal limitation. Over time, his body evolved, or perhaps devolved into something crystalline and pale. His scaleless hide took on a ghostly, translucent quality, while crystals grew from his body like tumorous growths. The stolen crystal magic he wielded eventually consumed him, transforming him into a living prison for souls. His body glows with an eerie light, every facet catching and refracting the essence of those he has imprisoned. He became the very thing he studied, a being of crystal and magic, immortal, yes, but at the cost of everything that made him a dragon. In worlds influenced by Dragonlance, we encounter the fairy dragons, creatures that prove that not all dragons need to be massive and terrifying. These tiny, purple-hued tricksters are no larger than house cats, but what they lack in size they make up for in mischief and magic. Fairy dragons possess the remarkable ability to shapeshift into swarms of glittering gemstones, scattering through the air in cascades of color. They delight in luring adventurers into illusory mazes, using hypnotic bursts of chromatic light to confuse and bewilder. These dragons are proof that draconic power need not always manifest in world-shaking displays of might. Sometimes, it comes in small, iridescent packages with a sense of humor. The Warcraft chronicles tell of dragons like Deathwing, behemoths that erupt from the earth itself as living embodiments of geological catastrophe. These creatures begin as molten, cataclysmic worms, boring through rock and magma with equal ease. Their black hides constantly crack under the strain of containing their power, revealing world-shattering lava veins that glow with the heat of the planet's core. When Deathwing surfaces, it's not just a dragon emerging, it's a volcanic eruption given wings, a tectonic event transformed into flesh and fury. Mountains crumble at his passing, and the very earth splits open in his wake. In realms where technology and fantasy merge, we find dragons adapted to the void of space. Consider creatures like Ridley from science fiction settings. Alien dragons whose wings have fused with advanced technology, creating cyborg horrors that can fire plasma beams while phasing through asteroid shields. These space dragons represent evolution taken in an entirely new direction, biological horror merged with mechanical precision, creatures that hunt not in skies, but in the endless dark between worlds. Some dragons carry the taint of undeath, their biology twisted into something that defies the natural order. In certain dark fantasy universes, we encounter dragons whose flesh has rotted into fiery tendrils that writhe with unnatural life. These undead nightmares regenerate from flames that burn with hellish intensity. Their body's a contradiction. Dead yet moving, rotting yet burning, destroyed yet eternally returning. They are biology inverted, death given the properties of life, horror made manifest in scale and flame. There are dragons corrupted into forms beyond even death, elder beings like Calamite who have fallen into abyssal voids of power. These twisted entities shriek with telekinetic force that warps gravity itself. They become wingless horrors, one-eyed nightmares whose very presence distorts reality. Their biology has moved beyond the physical, into something that exists as much in thought and nightmare as in flesh. In the varied worlds of fantasy role-playing, we find dragons that shift and adapt in ways both wondrous and strange. Dragovian lords who can change their color mid-battle, their humanoid dragon hybrid forms sprouting egg-like armor that hatches to release smaller draconic minions. Sand dragons that have abandoned wings entirely, becoming wingless quadrupeds that burrow through deserts, exhaling mirages so real they summon illusory armies from the heat shimmer of doom-swept hides. These are the bodies of dragons' furnaces that burn with magic instead of metabolism, scales that remember and reflect spells, brains divided into specialized consciousnesses, hearts that beat half out of reality, and forms that transform with age, element, and the strange whims of magical evolution. They are biology elevated to art, anatomy rewritten by magic, bodies that prove dragons are not just powerful, but fundamentally impossible in the most wonderful ways. Chapter 3: Scales of Morality. Types, alignments, and elements. With such varied forms, dragons naturally align with forces of good, evil, and everything in between. Let's explore their moral spectrum. Dragons aren't monolithic. Their colors, elements, and alignments define their roles in the eternal struggle of light and shadow. In the vast tapestry of fantasy worlds, few systems have codified the moral nature of dragons as clearly as Dungeons and Dragons. Here, a dragon's color tells you nearly everything you need to know about its character before a single word is spoken. Metallic dragons, those magnificent creatures whose scales shimmer with the luster of gold, silver, and bronze, are typically noble and good, aligned. They are the dragons of legend who guard kingdoms, advise wise rulers, and intervene to protect the innocent. A gold dragon might spend centuries watching over a realm, its presence a blessing that ensures prosperity and justice. Silver dragons are known for their love of human company, often taking mortal form to walk among shorter-lived races and understand their struggles. Bronze dragons patrol coastlines, protecting seafarers and punishing pirates who prey upon the innocent. But where there is light, there must also be shadow. The chromatic dragons, red, black, green, blue, and white, are usually selfish and evil, their very natures twisted toward cruelty and domination. A dragon's color becomes an instant clue to its morality, a visual shorthand that adventurers learn to read at a glance. See a red dragon circling overhead, and you know to expect tyranny and flame. Spot the sinuous form of a black dragon emerging from a swamp, and you understand that acid and corruption follow in its wake. This color-coded morality creates a world where dragons are not just powerful creatures, but embodiments of cosmic principles. Metallic dragons championing order and goodness, chromatic dragons embracing chaos and evil. Yet the relationship between color and morality goes deeper than simple categorization. In many worlds, chromatic dragons are said to be born tilted toward evil. Their alignment not entirely a matter of choice, but something woven into their very essence. The eggs themselves provide the first clue. A chromatic dragon's eggshell carries subtle hues that can darken over time, and legends say these colors respond to the moral environment around them. An egg exposed to acts of cruelty, to violence and suffering, will see its shell slowly darken, as if absorbing the malevolence of the world around it. By the time the wormling hatches, it has been steeped in darkness before taking its first breath, predisposed toward the same cruelty it sensed from within the shell. It's a sobering thought that evil might not just be a choice, but something that can be absorbed, inherited, learned before one even enters the world. These creatures are so closely tied to tyranny and domination that in some cosmologies, their mere presence corrupts the moral fabric of reality around them. A kingdom ruled by a red dragon from its mountain lair doesn't just suffer under draconic tyranny. The entire realm's alignment shifts. For every century that a red dragon rules unchallenged, visible from its volcanic perch, the kingdom's average moral alignment moves one step closer to evil. Good people become neutral, neutrals become callous, and those already inclined toward darkness embrace it fully. The dragon doesn't need to actively corrupt anyone. Its presence is corruption made manifest, a moral gravity well that pulls everything toward darkness simply by existing. But the metallic dragons offer hope as counterbalance to this darkness. These noble creatures are believed to resonate with what some scholars call the moral music of a realm, a harmonic frequency created by the collective actions of a region's people. When people act with compassion, when they show mercy and practice kindness, something remarkable happens to the metallic dragons in that area. Their scales literally shed brighter, becoming more reflective, shimmering with an inner light that mirrors the goodness around them. A gold dragon dwelling near a just kingdom might gleam like the sun itself, each scale a mirror polished by the righteousness of the realm. Conversely, in lands fallen to despair or cruelty, even a metallic dragon's scales might dim, tarnishing like silver exposed to darkness. They are living barometers of morality, their very bodies reflecting the spiritual health of the world around them. The breath weapons of dragons are famous throughout fantasy, but some metallic dragons possess breath attacks that transcend mere elemental damage. Paladins and certain holy orders speak in hushed tones of a gold dragon's true breath weapon. Not fire at all, but something far more profound. They call it conviction, a blast of pure moral certainty that doesn't burn the body but sears the soul. When creatures are caught in this exhalation, something extraordinary occurs. For a brief moment, they are forced to act according to their own professed ideals rather than their current alignment. The thief who claims he only steals from the rich finds himself unable to pocket a poor widow's coin. The tyrant who justifies his cruelty as necessary for order is compelled to show mercy. The hypocrite is stripped of all pretense and made to embody the virtues they claim but do not practice. It is perhaps the most devastating weapon a dragon could possess, the power to make people be what they claim to be. Between the moral poles of metallic and chromatic dragons exist the enigmatic gem dragons, creatures associated with psionics and neutrality. These mysterious beings, amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, and topaz dragons, view reality through a fundamentally different lens than their chromatic and metallic cousins. They are rumored to see alignment not as a rigid grid of good and evil, law and chaos, but as a spectrum of colors, a prismatic array of moral possibility. Each alignment has its own hue in their perception, and good might shimmer gold, while evil pulses deep crimson. Law forms geometric patterns, while chaos swirls unpredictably. Most remarkably, gem dragons are said to possess the power to temporarily repaint a mortal's aura, changing their alignment for a single day. The price for this service is steep, rare crystals that resonate with specific moral frequencies or vivid memories plucked from the petitioner's mind. Experiences so intense they carry their own psychic weight. Imagine living a day as a completely different moral being, your very nature temporarily rewritten, seeing the world through fundamentally different ethical eyes before returning to yourself when the sun sets. An old legend whispered among tabletop gaming circles speaks of a phenomenon both wondrous and terrifying. If a complete set of gem dragons, one of each type, amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, and topaz, were to circle the world in synchronized flight, their combined psionic power would reach a critical threshold. In that moment, the entire planet's moral axis would randomly realign. Law might become chaos, its structures dissolving into beautiful anarchy. Good might invert into evil, heroes awakening as villains with no memory of their former virtue. And crucially, no prophecy would survive this shift unchanged. Every prediction, every divine revelation, every carefully laid plan based on cosmic principles would crumble, rewritten by the fundamental reshaping of reality's moral foundations. It is said to have happened only twice in recorded history, and both times plunged entire worlds into ages of confusion as societies struggled to understand their new moral reality. The gem dragons themselves embody this blending of mind and matter. Unlike their chromatic cousins who breathe fire or acid, or their metallic kin who exhale lightning or frost, gem dragons are psionic creatures. They wield mental powers, telepathy that lets them walk through your thoughts like rooms in a vast mansion, mind blasts that can shatter consciousness like glass, telekinesis that moves objects with thought alone. Their breath weapons, when they use them, often carry psychic rather than elemental properties, disrupting thoughts and emotions rather than flesh and bone. They represent a different kind of dragon entirely, one whose power resides not in physical might, but in the infinite landscape of the mind. In the world of Avatar, the last airbender, dragons occupy a sacred position in the cosmology of bending. Here, dragons are not monsters to be slain for glory or treasure, but revered teachers, the original firebenders. Before humans learned to bend the flames, dragons mastered fire in its purest form. They are the source, the wellspring from which all human firebending ultimately flows. To study under a dragon, to witness the dancing dragon form performed by these ancient masters, is to touch the original essence of the art. This transforms dragons from antagonists into spiritual ancestors, beings whose wisdom about fire transcends what humans have managed to learn in all their centuries of practice. They remind us that mastery is not about destruction, but about understanding, not about power, but about harmony with the element itself. The Breath of Fire video game series presents dragons, not as a separate species, but as something that runs in certain bloodlines. The protagonists of these tales are members of dragon clans, carrying within them the potential for transformation. They are human in form, living human lives, but within them sleeps draconic power waiting to be awakened. When the moment demands it, they can undergo a metamorphosis, transforming into powerful dragon forms that channel their unique heritage. It's a vision of dragons, not as external forces, but as internal potential, a power that exists within bloodlines, passed from generation to generation, waiting for those with the courage to embrace what they truly are. The elemental nature of dragons defines much of their identity across fantasy realms. Red dragons in worlds like those of Baldur's Gate are living embodiments of fire, breathing destruction that reduces stone to slag and forests to ash. They symbolize raw, primal destruction, the chaos of the inferno given wings and a will. Their fire isn't just hot, it's the manifestation of their philosophy, the burning away of order and structure, leaving only ruin in their wake. In more playful settings, like Dragon Mania legends, the elements become building blocks for creation. Players can merge dragons of fire, water, and earth elements, creating hybrid beasts that embody multiple elemental powers simultaneously. A dragon that is part flame and part water might breathe scalding steam. One combining earth and fire could generate lava flows. These hybrids showcase the combinatorial nature of elemental power, the way different forces can be woven together to create something entirely new, dragon genetics as elemental alchemy. The dragons of Skyrim wield their elements through shouts. The Thu'um, those words of power tied to storm and fire. Each soul they absorb strengthens their command over these forces, making them more dangerous with every dragon they consume or every dragonborn they defeat. Their relationship with elements is linguistic, tied to the fundamental language of creation. To breathe fire is not just to exhale flame, but to speak the word for fire in the language that created fire, commanding it into existence through pure vocalization. The Dungeons & Dragons framework has created perhaps the most comprehensive elemental system, classifying dragons by their breath weapons and associated personalities. Chromatic dragons wield destructive elements, fire and acid, cold and lightning and poisonous gas, each element reflecting an aspect of their evil nature. Red dragons breathe fire because their souls burn with avarice and rage. Black dragons spew acid because their hearts are corroded by hatred and cruelty. Metallic dragons, by contrast, breathe elements tied to protection and judgment. Bronze dragons' lightning strikes with the precision of divine justice. Silver dragons' cold freezes evil in its tracks, like moral absolute zero. Each element becomes not just a weapon, but a statement of philosophy, a physical manifestation of the dragon's place in the cosmic order. In Glorantha, the world of RuneQuest, dragons transcend typical elemental classifications entirely. Here, true dragons are timeless entities that exist more as concepts than creatures. They are dream-spawning beings whose very existence blurs the line between real and imagined, Ancient beyond reckoning, they are sometimes mistaken for geographical features. That mountain range might be a sleeping dragon. Those hills could be the coils of a dreaming worm. They exist beyond the typical fire-breathing tropes, creatures so fundamental to reality that they shape the dreams of entire civilizations without moving or waking. Eberron presents yet another variation with its gem dragons. Psionic entities described almost as biological mechs, their bodies armored like constructs, housing alien Quori spirits that give them powers beyond the typical draconic arsenal. These are dragons built for epic confrontations, their crystalline forms optimized for battles that shake continents, each one a walking fortress of psionic might. In the neon-lit streets of Shadowrun's cyberpunk future, dragons have adapted to modernity without losing their ancient power. They integrate into corporate structures as immortal overlords, manipulating markets and nations with the same skill they once applied to hoarding gold and terrorizing kingdoms. They blend elemental magic with cutting-edge technology, casting spells through computer networks, breathing fire that's been calculated by quantum processors for maximum efficiency. They prove that dragons need not belong only to medieval fantasy, that draconic power can adapt to any age, any setting, remaining relevant and terrifying whether they rule from mountain caves or corner offices. The game, Fireborn, offers a unique perspective by letting players embody dragons reborn in human form. These players experience flashbacks to their true draconic existence, gradually reclaiming elemental powers like flight and flame even while trapped in mortal flesh. It's a meditation on identity and memory, on what it means to be a dragon when you're wearing the shape of something smaller and more fragile, fire and wings existing as memories slowly becoming real again. In worlds without number, dragons exist as ageless challenges, living dungeon-level threats that blight entire regions with their corrupting auras. Their presence doesn't just threaten individual heroes, but poisons the land itself, turning fertile ground barren, twisting creatures into monsters, spreading corruption like a moral plague that seeps into soil and soul alike. They are challenges meant for epic heroes at the height of their power, dragons who have accumulated centuries of malevolence and whose very existence is an affront to the natural order. These are the scales of morality. Chromatic dragons birthed in darkness, metallic dragons reflecting the light of compassion, gem dragons seeing beyond simple duality into spectrums of ethical possibility. Dragons whose colors predict their hearts, whose elements embody their philosophies, whose very presence shifts the moral axis of the world around them. They are not just powerful. They are morality made flesh, walking arguments in the eternal debate between light and shadow, proving that in fantasy realms, alignment is not just philosophy, but physical law, written in scales and fire. Chapter 4. Architects of Reality. Dragons as world shapers. These alignments and elements empower dragons to reshape entire worlds. Witness their cosmic influence. From carving continents to anchoring fate, dragons don't just inhabit worlds, they forge them. In the vast digital realm of Azeroth, where World of Warcraft's epic saga unfolds, dragons serve a purpose far greater than simply being powerful creatures. The 5 dragon aspects were chosen and empowered by titanic beings, godlike entities who shaped the world in its earliest days to serve as guardians of reality itself. Each dragonflight was given a sacred charge, a fundamental aspect of existence to protect and nurture. The bronze dragonflight watches over time itself, ensuring the proper flow of past, present, and future, correcting temporal anomalies and preventing paradoxes that could unravel reality. The emerald dragonflight guards the realm of dreams and the primal blueprint of nature. The red dragonflight serves as custodian of all life, the beating heart of nature's vitality. The blue dragonflight once governed magic itself, maintaining the delicate balance of arcane forces. And the black dragonflight, before its corruption, was charged with protecting the deep earth and stone. These are not merely powerful dragons. but cosmic architects, each one a pillar supporting a different aspect of the world's continued existence. In a very different kind of world, the planet Pern presents dragons born not of ancient magic, but of deliberate genetic engineering. Here, dragons are bioengineered telepathic creatures, created through careful breeding programs to serve a desperate need. From space falls Thread, a deadly spore that devours all organic matter it touches, falling in predictable cycles that threaten all life on Pern. The dragons and their human riders form an unbreakable telepathic bond, a connection so deep that rider and dragon become two parts of a single consciousness. Together, they take to the skies when Thread falls, the dragons breathing fire to burn the deadly spores from the air before they can reach the ground. It's a vision of dragons as saviors rather than threats, creatures whose very existence was shaped by humanity's need, protectors who stand between civilization and extinction. But some legends suggest dragons shaped the world long before any human civilization existed to need saving. Consider the theory that the major continents we know today were once a single, unified landmass. This primordial supercontinent remained whole until the first flight of the world dragons, an event so ancient it predates recorded history. When these titanic beings first took to the air, their wing beats alone were powerful enough to create storms that lasted years. And when they landed, the sheer mass and force of their descent cracked the very crust of the planet. Each landing sent shockwaves through the mantle, fracturing the unified land. Over ages, these cracks widened, and the continental plates began their slow drift apart. The world's geography is thus a map of ancient draconic flight paths, each continent a fragment of what dragons tore asunder simply by existing at a scale too massive for the world to accommodate without breaking. Look closely at the mountain ranges that sweep across the world in graceful, curved arcs. Geologists might speak of tectonic uplift and volcanic activity, but older legends tell a different story. These sweeping curves, they say, are landing scars, the places where ancient dragons came to rest after battles that shook the sky and split the clouds. Each mountain range marks where a dragon crashed to earth, its massive body gouging deep into the ground. Over millions of years, these impact sites uplifted, the disturbed earth rising to form the peaks we see today. The mountains remember their violent birth, and in their curves, you can still trace the outline of draconic forms. Wings spread in final descent, tails creating ridgelines that stretch for hundreds of miles. The turning of the seasons themselves may be nothing more than the sleep patterns of 4 primordial dragons, each embodying a different time of year. The winter dragon slumbers in its polar lair for most of the year, but when it stirs and shifts in its sleep, frost races across the world like a living thing. Ice creeps southward, snow begins to fall, and the world grows cold in sympathy with the dragon's waking dreams. When it settles back into deeper sleep, the ice retreats. The summer dragon works in opposition. When it dreams deeply, lost in hot, fevered visions, heat waves spread across the land and droughts crack the earth. The spring and autumn dragons mediate between these extremes, their own cycles of waking and sleeping creating the transitional seasons. The entire year is thus a cosmic dance of draconic consciousness, the world's climate, nothing more than the breath of sleeping gods. Eclipses carry their own draconic explanation. When the sun darkens in the middle of the day, when the moon's shadow races across the land, oracles and seers know what is truly happening. The twilight dragon, that creature existing between light and dark, has rolled over in its eternal slumber. For just a moment, it curls around the sun, its vast body blocking the light, casting the world into shadow. These eclipses are treated as omens, signs used to predict upheavals in kingdoms and magic alike. When the twilight dragon stirs, change comes. Thrones topple, new magical discoveries emerge, and the balance between order and chaos shifts. Wise rulers watch the skies and time their great endeavors around these celestial warnings. Beneath the surface, dragons have shaped the world in ways most never suspect. The ley lines that wizards and druids tap into for power are not natural features of the earth. They are the fossilized veins of the first dragons, those primordial beings who existed when the world was young. These ancient dragons died and were buried, their enormous bodies sinking deep into the mantle over eons. Their bones, their blood vessels, their very essence remained, transforming slowly into conduits for magical energy. Where their ribs or skulls lie close to the surface, magic seeps upward like water from a spring, forming wild zones where reality bends, rifts where other dimensions bleed through, and high-mana dungeons that draw adventurers like moths to flame. The most powerful magical sites in the world are simply places where draconic fossils rest close enough to touch. This explains, too, why so many magical implements carry an echo of resistance, a sense of semi-autonomous will. Most staff cores, wands, and powerful relics in wizard traditions secretly trace back to shards of draconic bone or tooth. A wizard who wields a staff cord with dragon bone isn't just using a tool. They're trying to command a fragment of a creature that once commanded magic itself. These relics resist mortal attempts to fully control them because they remember what they once were. They carry an echo of draconic will that never entirely fades. The most powerful magical artifacts are those that have learned to work with their wielders rather than simply being commanded, partnerships between mortal and the ghost of ancient dragons. History's greatest empires share a secret that historians rarely speak aloud. Each of the longest-lived, most successful empires began not with superior military might or advanced technology, but with a hidden treaty. A mortal ruler, wise or desperate enough to see the opportunity, offered tribute and absolute secrecy in exchange for a dragon's strategic advice and aerial dominance over rival nations. With the dragon as hidden advisor, empires expanded with uncanny precision. Enemy armies found themselves perpetually outmaneuvered. Trade routes flourished under mysterious protection. Rival nations hesitated to attack for reasons they couldn't quite articulate, sensing some vast threat they couldn't name. But dragons are not eternal partners to mortal realms. When these dragons withdrew, growing bored, dying of old age, or being slain by heroes who didn't understand what they were destroying, the empires collapsed with shocking speed. Within a single generation, vast dominions that had stood for centuries crumbled into warring fragments. This pattern has repeated so many times that some historians have begun tracking imperial timelines, not by royal dynasties, but by missing dragon years, the periods when a dragon's secret influence vanished and everything fell apart. It suggests that human civilization, at its greatest heights, has always been propped up by hidden draconic architecture, and that our grandest achievements may have never truly been our own. Even our languages carry the mark of dragons. The first spoken tongues of elves, humans, and dwarves are, according to the oldest legends, simplified dialects of Draconic. When lesser peoples first heard dragons speak, they tried desperately to mimic those spell syllables, to shape their mouths around words that held power. But mortal throats cannot fully pronounce true Draconic without shattering. The sounds carry too much power, too much fundamental reality, altering force. So the younger races created approximations, simplified versions that captured some shadow of Draconic speech without destroying the speaker. These became the first languages, and from them, all modern tongues descended. This linguistic ancestry has profound implications. Certain root words appear across vastly different cultures, words that should have no common origin, spoken by peoples separated by oceans and mountains. Yet these words share suspicious similarities, and they all carry a faint resonance that dragons can perceive. This allows dragons to eavesdrop on any ritual spoken in a living language, because all living languages are children of Draconic. When wizards cast spells, when priests perform ceremonies, when kings take sacred oaths, dragons can hear the echoes of their own ancient tongue, buried in the words, understanding meanings that the speakers themselves might not consciously know they're conveying. dragons serve another crucial function in the ecosystem of magical worlds. They are apex arcane predators that subtly cull or redirect other monsters. A dragon's hunting territory determines the entire monstrous hierarchy of a region. Which horrors can safely proliferate, which are driven into remote deadly dungeons, which are hunted to extinction. All of this flows from the dragon's presence and preferences. A dragon that feeds on giants will keep giant populations in check. One that dislikes undead will purge its territory of necromantic corruption. The dragon becomes an invisible hand shaping the landscape of threats, maintaining a balance that most never realize exists. This becomes devastatingly clear in regions where dragons have been exterminated. With no apex predator to maintain the balance, these areas quickly become overrun. Hydras proliferate unchecked, their numbers exploding. Giants descend from the mountains to raid with impunity. Aberrations slip through weakened dimensional barriers. Undead rise without anything to destroy them, spreading like plague. Within years, dragon-free regions become nightmarish hellscapes, forcing nearby kingdoms to make a terrible choice: resurrect an old dragon somehow, or secretly import a new one and accept the dangers that come with it. It turns out that dragons, for all their threats to individual heroes, serve as a form of protection for civilization as a whole. A dragon's hoard is not mere greed, though greed certainly plays its role. Each coin, each relic, each precisely chosen treasure acts as a metaphysical anchor, a nail that fastens a region's probability and history in place. Dragons instinctively select items that resonate with specific outcomes, specific timelines. The hoard becomes a kind of reality stabilizer, keeping the world on a particular track. This is why dragons are so protective of their treasures. They're not just defending wealth, they're maintaining the stability of reality itself in their territory. When a hoard is looted or destroyed, the consequences ripple through reality in terrifying ways. History begins to loosen and fray. Timelines that had been fixed become uncertain. Forgotten gods, their worship sustained by the hoard's reality. Anchoring properties slip back into memory and can manifest again. Entire cities may flicker between alternate outcomes of their own past wars. Perhaps they were conquered instead of victorious. Perhaps they were destroyed and rebuilt differently. Perhaps they never existed at all. The present becomes uncertain, layered with ghostly alternatives, as reality struggles to re-establish stability without the hoard's anchoring influence. Board games about dragon wars, popular across many fantasy realms, are not simple entertainment. They are simplified recreations of an ancient draconic prophecy engine, a system dragons once used to model future outcomes and shape probability. Playing these games in particular patterns, specific openings, precise sequences of moves, carefully orchestrated endgames, can subtly influence real battles and treaties. The game is a ritual disguised as recreation, and those who understand its true nature can use it to tilt fate. Some kingdoms employ grandmasters of these games, consulting them on matters of strategy and state. What rulers don't realize is that many of these grandmasters are disguised dragons, using tournament outcomes to determine which kingdom will prosper and which will fall in the next decade. The games are real battles fought in miniature, and the outcomes on the board echo through reality to shape the outcomes on actual battlefields. A dragon defeated in a game tournament may subtly adjust its plans to ensure the victor's nation receives unexpected advantages. In magical card games and divination decks, the dragon cards hold a terrible secret. They contain actual echoes of long-dead dragon minds, fragments of consciousness bound when their physical hearts were ground into ink and pigment. These are not mere illustrations, but prisons for dragon souls, or at least pieces of those souls. When someone draws and plays such a card, that echo briefly awakens. For just a moment, a fragment of dragon consciousness reaches into the world and reshapes fate, nudging dice toward favorable outcomes, bending probability curves, or even rewriting a single remembered moment in the minds of all present. Players who unknowingly wield these cards are channeling draconic power without realizing it, their games determining outcomes far beyond the table. Perhaps most unsettling is what happens when a truly ancient dragon dies in a spectacular, world-shaking way. The death itself is so significant, so cosmically important, that it retroactively edits history. Suddenly, the world has always led up to that moment. Legends shift to accommodate it. Relic lineages adjust so that objects of power were created specifically because this dragon would eventually need to be slain. Maps change, showing features that supposedly always existed but were created by the dragon's death. The past rewrites itself around the event. Bards and storytellers who retell such deaths find themselves unconsciously aligning with the new timeline. They become the first to remember how the world has always been, even if their own memories quietly contradict their earlier works. A bard might recall teaching a ballad one way for years, but now finds themselves singing a different version. And the disturbing part is that this new version feels correct, feels like it was always the true telling. Their written works from years past, if they could find them, might contradict what they now remember writing. They become living bridges between timelines, carrying fragments of the old reality even as they sing the new one. In the world of Final Fantasy IX, dragons have been adapted for war on a massive scale. Silver dragons serve as elite weapons for major antagonists, showing that in some realms, dragons can be mass deployed as military assets rather than unique, lone monsters. They become living siege weapons, air superiority fighters, strategic bombers, all in one. The sky becomes a battlefield of draconic forces clashing while armies on the ground watch helplessly from below. Skyrim's ancient history speaks of dragons like Alduin forging the province's jagged peaks through cataclysmic flights in ages long past. Each mountain, each valley carved by draconic passage. In Dragon's Dogma, dragons appear as world shapers who unleash plagues, their very presence restructuring ecosystems. They summon pawns, mysterious servants who guard their hoards and carry out their will across the land. In the lands between of Elden Ring, ancient dragons etched fiery craters into the landscape with their battles, their scales forming the basis for legendary armors that grant mortals a fraction of draconic resilience. Dungeons and Dragons lore reaches even further, claiming that dragons sculpted the multiverse's very planes by breathing elemental chaos into the primordial void. Order and matter emerged from their exhalations, reality itself crystallizing from draconic breath. In the Dragonlance novels, Takisis, the Dark Queen is said to have molded the continents of Krynn with her colossal wings during the Age of Starfall, each wing beat shaping coastlines and mountains. The Forgotten Realms speaks of Io, the dragon god, whose body was split in a cosmic schism, each half birthing a twin world, creation through divine draconic sacrifice. In Tolkien's Middle-earth, Smaug hoarded mountains of gold that literally uplifted Erebor's halls, the sheer weight and magical resonance of his treasure affecting the Dwarven Kingdom's architecture and prosperity for centuries. His presence and his hoard were inseparable from the kingdom's identity. In board games like Dragonfire, elder dragons are portrayed as the weavers of ley lines, their movements and resting places binding entire realms together, pulling heroes into eternal quests simply by existing. Magic, the Gathering's Nicobolas, stands as perhaps the ultimate example of a dragon as world shaper. This ancient planeswalker dragon fractured Dominaria's very history, using psionic roars that unraveled time itself. He didn't just change the present. He reached into the past and reshaped causality, making it so events happened differently than they had, creating paradoxes and temporal scars that still haven't healed. Even in more stylized settings, dragons carry world-shaping power. Yugi. Oh, blue eyes. White Dragon appears in legends as the creator of glacial tundras, its frost breath so cold it permanently altered entire climate zones, birthing ice sorcerer clans who still draw power from the ancient cold it left behind. In tabletop games like Dragon Hearts, shape-shifting dragons possess the power to kiss reality into new forms, their clashing personalities literally rewriting myths and legends as they disagree about how the world should be. These are the architects of reality. Dragons who don't simply live in the world, but who created it, who maintain it, who anchor it against the chaos of infinite possibility. They are the hidden framework beneath civilization, the geological engineers of continents, the weavers of fate and probability, the anchors that keep history from unraveling. Worlds without dragons aren't just safer. They're fundamentally less stable, less real, slowly coming apart without the draconic architecture that holds reality together. Dragons are the builders, and we all live in structures of their design, whether we know it or not. Chapter 5. Bonds and Legends. Dragons among mortals. Yet dragons are not distant creators. They bond with mortals, guard realms, and ignite legends. Dragons entwine their fates with ours, forming alliances, rivalries, and unbreakable ties that define epic tales. In the Dragonheart films, we encounter one of fantasy's most profound expressions of the bond between dragon and human. Here, a dragon can perform an act of ultimate sacrifice and generosity, sharing part of its heart and soul with a human, creating a magical link that binds their life forces together as one. This is no simple alliance or friendship, but a fusion of essence. When one is wounded, the other feels the pain. When one is endangered, the other weakens. And when death comes for one, it comes for both. It's a bond that makes two beings into a single entity distributed across two bodies, proving that dragons can love mortals enough to literally share their immortal essence, tying their eternal existence to the brief, flickering candle of human life. Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern takes the concept of bonding even further, making it the foundation of an entire civilization. On Pern, dragons and riders are psychically bonded from the moment of hatching, their minds and emotions joining so completely that they become two halves of one consciousness. A dragon doesn't simply obey its rider. It shares thoughts, feelings, sensations. Joy and pain flow between them without barrier. The rider knows what the dragon sees, feels the wind beneath draconic wings as if it were their own body soaring through the air. But this beautiful union carries a terrible price. If the dragon's soul is lost, if it goes between the dimensional space dragons use to teleport and fails to return, the rider may die from the psychic shock. At minimum, their mind can break, leaving them a hollow shell, forever incomplete, mourning not just the loss of a companion, but the amputation of half their own soul. In the Wheel of Time, the concept of dragon takes on an entirely different meaning, tied not to a creature but to a prophesied human champion. The dragon is a soul reborn across ages, a being whose consciousness returns again and again throughout history to wield world-shaping magic in times of ultimate crisis. This dragon reborn carries memories from past lives, power that transcends normal human limits, and the weight of prophecy that stretches across millennia. Here, the title of dragon becomes divorced from physical form entirely. It is purely about soul and destiny, proving that draconic power can manifest in human flesh when fate demands it. The inheritance cycle presents Eragon and Saphira, whose bond exemplifies the partnership between rider and dragon as it exists in many fantasy worlds. Their souls literally touch, creating a connection that allows them to share not just thoughts, but magical potential. When they cast spells together, their power doesn't simply add, it multiplies the bond between them, amplifying their abilities beyond what either could achieve alone. But this beautiful synergy comes with the same terrible vulnerability we saw in Pern. The bond is so strong that if one dies, the other can be mentally and emotionally shattered by the loss. Some riders don't survive their dragon's death, even if physically unharmed. The psychic trauma alone can kill. And dragons who lose their riders sometimes retreat into madness, their ancient minds unable to process the sudden silence where once there was constant communion. In the world of Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, dragons form bonds through a different mechanism, imprinting. Dragons like Drogon can attach themselves to humans, forming a deep connection so that the dragon responds primarily to that person as rider and master. It's not the psychic fusion of Pern or the inheritance cycle, but something more primal. The dragon chooses, and that choice shapes both beings. The dragon gains direction and purpose, while the human gains access to draconic power and the ability to ride the storm itself. These bonds make mortals into dragon lords, transforming ordinary humans into figures of legend simply by virtue of the dragon's acceptance. Some traditions in fantasy hold that the circumstances of a dragon's hatching can shape its entire moral trajectory. In certain card and board game lore, a dragon hatched within sight of a crowded city becomes imprinted, not by a person, but by the first public festival it hears. The emotional resonance of that celebration seeps into the dragon's developing consciousness, coloring its worldview before it even opens its eyes. If that festival honors heroism, celebrates acts of courage and self-sacrifice, the hatchling dragon leans toward good. Its first impression of the world is one where virtue is celebrated, and this shapes everything that follows. But if the festival honors conquest, glorifies military victory and domination, the hatchling leans toward evil. It learns from its first moments that power and control are what the world values, and it grows to embody those principles. Even more intriguing is the notion that alignment is not fixed, that a dragon can change based on the company it keeps. A recurring fantasy trope states that if a party of adventurers travels with the same dragon for 9 completed quests, 9 full story arcs, 9 journeys from beginning to end, the dragon's alignment shifts one step closer to the party's dominant alignment, regardless of its original nature. An evil dragon traveling with heroes slowly finds itself thinking more like them, making choices that surprise even itself, discovering empathy and compassion it never knew it possessed. Conversely, a good dragon keeping company with villains might feel its moral certainties eroding, finding itself rationalizing cruelties it once would have condemned. Dragons, for all their ancient wisdom and power, are not immune to influence. They can grow, change, be redeemed or corrupted, just like the mortals they bond with. In the grim fantasy world of Gloomhaven, dragons appear as apex predators in their most pure and terrifying form. These drakes and dragons are some of the deadliest foes adventurers can face, with elemental breath that can devastate entire parties and thick hides that turn aside most weapons. They don't form bonds or serve as guardians of civilization. They are the ultimate test, the monsters that await at campaign's end. Proof that not all dragons are potential allies. Sometimes a dragon is simply the most dangerous thing in the world, a force that must be overcome through strategy, preparation, and no small amount of luck. In the anime and card game franchise Card Fight. Vanguard, dragons like Dragonic Overlord represent something beyond mere physical might. These dragons embody the commanding presence of a warlord, the charisma and strategic genius required to lead entire armies. They are not just strong. They are leaders, tacticians, beings whose very presence on the battlefield inspires allies and terrifies enemies. The dragon becomes a symbol of dominance, not through raw power alone, but through the ability to coordinate, to command, to turn chaos into victory, through sheer force of will and tactical brilliance. In Descent, Journeys in the Dark, dragons take on the role of campaign bosses, climactic guardians whose lairs represent the culmination of entire story arcs. These dragons dwell in chambers filled with traps and minions, their hordes protected by layers of challenges that test everything adventurers have learned on their journey. They are milestone markers, the final exam that determines whether heroes are truly ready to claim legendary status. Defeating such a dragon isn't just about combat. It's about proving worthiness, demonstrating that the party has grown enough to deserve the treasures and knowledge the dragon guards. In the frozen peaks of Skyrim, Paarthurnax represents a different kind of guardian entirely. This ancient dragon guards the throat of the world, not as a territorial predator, but as an eternal sentinel of time itself. He has spent millennia meditating on the nature of existence, becoming a cryptic mentor to heroes who seek wisdom rather than just power. Paarthurnax shows us that dragons can be philosophers, teachers whose lessons carry the weight of ages. His very existence poses profound questions about redemption and nature. Can a being born to dominate choose peace? Can evil be overcome through will and endless vigilance? He guards not just a place, but a philosophy, a way of understanding the world that only centuries of contemplation can achieve. In Dragon Age Origins, dragons take on a more primal archetypal role as archdemons, guardians of corrupted chaos that awaken periodically to test civilization's resolve. These are not evil in a petty sense, but in a cosmic one, representing the universe's tendency toward entropy and destruction. When they rise, entire societies must unite to face them or be consumed. They are tests in the most literal sense, challenges that force civilizations to prove they deserve to continue existing. Those who fail are destroyed. Those who succeed emerge stronger, tempered by the trial. The ancient dragons of Elden Ring serve as symbols of forgotten divinity, protecting draconic lineage and storm-wrought ruins from those deemed unworthy. They are living monuments to an age when dragons ruled, and their presence among the ruins serves as both warning and guardian. They don't protect treasure in the traditional sense. They protect memory, heritage, the knowledge of what came before. To face these dragons is to challenge history itself, to prove oneself worthy of inheriting the power and wisdom of ages past. Smaug, from Tolkien's The Hobbit, stands as perhaps fantasy's most iconic representation of dragons as hoarders. He embodies insatiable greed made manifest, a being who conquered the dwarven kingdom of Erebor, not for strategic purposes, but simply to possess its mountain of wealth. For decades, he lies atop that gold, adding nothing, creating nothing, simply existing as a corrupt guardian of stolen treasure. Smaug shows us the darker side of the dragon, as guardian archetype. Sometimes what they guard was never theirs to begin with, and their protection is merely possessiveness elevated to cosmic scale. In stark contrast, Saphira from the Inheritance Cycle acts as a bonded guardian dragon in the truest sense. Her relationship with Eragon symbolizes unbreakable loyalty and shared fate. She doesn't guard treasure or territory. She guards her rider, her friend, her other half. Together they battle tyranny, their bond making them stronger than either could be alone. Saphira proves that dragons can be true partners to mortals, equals in a relationship built on mutual respect and love rather than dominance or service. In Magic, the Gathering's Tarkir Plain, dragons guard clan ancestral sites, embodying both elemental fury and imperial dominance. These dragons don't just protect locations, they protect identities, the cultural heritage of entire peoples. Each dragon clan's territories are defined by their dragon overlords, whose elemental nature shapes not just the landscape, but the culture and values of those who dwell there. Fire dragons create harsh, warrior cultures. Storm dragons foster honor and tradition. The dragons become the living embodiment of their clan's principles, guardians not just of land, but of way of life. Dungeons and dragons. Chromatic dragons take guardianship in a possessive, malevolent direction. They hoard their lairs as impenetrable vaults filled with arcane lore and cursed artifacts. These dragons don't protect their treasures for any noble purpose. They simply cannot bear for anyone else to possess what they claim as theirs. Their lairs become death traps for the curious and the greedy, filled with not just the dragon, but with magical defenses, cursed items that punish thieves, and secrets that perhaps should never have been preserved. They are guardians in the most selfish sense, protecting not to preserve, but to deny, to ensure that no one else can have what they have claimed. In Descent, Journeys in the Dark, dragons serve as overlord guardians, symbolizing territorial dominion over the dungeon depths. They represent the final barrier between adventurers and their goals, the ultimate expression of "you shall not pass." These dragons don't guard because they care about what lies beyond them. They guard because this is their domain, and intrusion cannot be tolerated. They are sovereignty made flesh, borders that breathe fire. In Dracan, the ancient's gates, a rock bonds with riders across ages, his ancient mind serving as a vault of pre-Demon King histories vital to reclaiming Dragonkind's heritage. He is a guardian of memory, a living library whose knowledge spans epochs. A rock shows us that dragons can guard not objects but information, serving as keepers of truth in ages where history is being forgotten or deliberately erased. His bonds with successive riders are not about dominance or even partnership in the traditional sense. They're about transmission of knowledge, ensuring that crucial understanding survives from age to age. The High Dragons and Dragon Age board game adaptations present a terrifying variation on guardianship. These ancient beings slumber for centuries in lairs that pulse with territorial magic. This magic doesn't just repel intruders, it devours their memories. Those who enter a High Dragon's territory and survive might emerge with no recollection of why they came, what they sought, or even who they are. The dragon guards through amnesia, ensuring that even if someone physically escapes with treasure, they'll never remember what they found or how they got it. It's protection through erasure, guardianship that works by making the very concept of theft impossible to remember. Ancient dragons and Dragon's Crown require talismans and runes to even reach, sealed away behind illusionary prisons that demand intelligence and might in equal measure to bypass. These dragons embody goddesses' triune trials, tests that challenge not just strength but wisdom, cunning, and worthiness. They are guardians who evaluate, who judge, who ensure that only those who deserve to pass may do so. Their treasure is not simply protected by force, but by divine mandate, locked behind trials that separate the truly heroic from the merely strong. These are the bonds and legends. Dragons who share their hearts with humans, who form psychic unions so deep that death for one means death for both, who choose riders and are changed by them, who guard not just treasure but memory, heritage, and the very concept of worthiness itself. They prove that for all their power and age, dragons need mortals just as much as mortals need them. Together, they create the great stories, the bonds that transcend death, the partnerships that shape history. Dragons may forge worlds, but with mortals, they forge meaning. Chapter 6. Icons of the Ages. Famous named dragons. These bonds give rise to legends of iconic dragons whose stories echo through eternity. From villains to saviors, these legendary dragons have left indelible marks on their worlds. In the lonely mountain of Erebor dwells perhaps fantasy literature's most famous dragon, Smaug the Magnificent, Smaug the Terrible. His obsession with his hoard goes beyond simple greed into something almost supernatural. Smaug is so perfectly attuned to his treasure that he can detect even a single cup missing from the vast pile of gold and jewels he sleeps upon. Every coin has been counted, every gem memorized, every piece of plate and jewelry cataloged in his ancient mind. When Bilbo Baggins dares to steal a single cup, Smaug knows immediately, treating this pilfered trinket as a personal insult worthy of mass destruction. His rage is not merely that of a thief discovering theft, but something more profound, a violation of the perfect order he has imposed upon his hoard, a disruption of the harmony he has created between himself and his treasure. And that treasure has become part of him in the most literal sense. Smaug's underbelly, which should be vulnerable, soft flesh, has become encrusted with gold and gems from centuries of slumber atop his hoard. The precious metals and stones have embedded themselves in his skin, forming an almost impenetrable natural armor. He is no longer merely guarding the treasure. He has become one with it, his body a living vault. Yet this fusion carries a fatal irony. One spot on his left breast remains bare, a single weak point where no gem has adhered. It is the smallest flaw in an otherwise perfect defense, and it will prove his undoing. In the Dragonheart film, we meet Draco, a dragon whose nobility elevates the entire concept of what dragons can be. Draco performs the ultimate act of selflessness, sharing his heart with a human prince named Einon, magically binding their lives together. It is an act of pure compassion, meant to save a dying child. But the magic works both ways. Harm to one is reflected in the other, creating a vulnerability Draco accepts willingly. When Einon grows into a tyrant, Draco faces a terrible choice: allow the corruption to continue or end both their lives to stop the evil. His story becomes one of sacrifice, of a dragon choosing to die so that humans might live free, proving that true nobility transcends species. Across the vast multiverse of Final Fantasy, one name resounds above all others: Bahamut, revered as the Dragon King. In world after world, Bahamut is portrayed as the most powerful summon, a being of such devastating might that his signature attack can obliterate entire enemy armies in a single blast of energy. His Mega Flare is not simply a breath weapon, but a judgment, a declaration that reality itself bends before draconic supremacy. Yet Bahamut's power is not freely given. Only heroes who pass grueling trials or prove their worth in combat are deemed worthy to call upon him. He tests those who seek his aid, ensuring that such overwhelming force is only placed in the hands of those who will use it justly. Bahamut becomes a symbol of earned power, of worthiness proven through trial, reminding us that the greatest strengths must be deserved. In the frozen north of Skyrim, an even more terrifying dragon awaits. Alduin, called the World Eater. He is not merely a powerful dragon, but a force of cosmic inevitability. Alduin is prophesied to devour the world itself so that a new one can be reborn in its place. He is both apocalypse and cosmic reset button, destruction as a necessary prelude to creation. The ancient Nords understand that Alduin is not evil in any conventional sense. He is performing his ordained function, the role for which he was created. They believe Alduin is the firstborn of Akatosh, the chief god of time, giving him a divine claim over all other dragons. He is not a usurper, but a prince of heaven, and when he comes to end the world, he comes not as a villain, but as the executor of divine will. The terror of Alduin lies not in his malice, but in his inevitability. He is the end that must come, the reset that cannot be prevented, only delayed. Once, there was a dragon called Neltharion, the Earth Warder, one of the 5 dragon aspects empowered to protect the world. He was noble, powerful, a guardian whose duty was to keep the deep earth safe and stable. But ancient eldritch entities whispered to him from beneath the world, their voices seeping into his mind like poison. Slowly, terribly, the Earth Warder went mad. Neltharion became Deathwing, transforming from protector into destroyer, his emergence literally shattering continents and reshaping geography through catastrophic violence. His body, unable to contain the burning fury within, began to crack and split. Molten lava pours from the fissures in his hide, and he would have torn himself apart if not for the massive adamantine plates bolted directly into his flesh. These plates hold him together, but they also serve as constant torture, metal driven into living tissue to create a being that is essentially a living doomsday engine. Deathwing's tragedy is that he was once a hero, and some fragment of Neltharion may still exist somewhere within the monster, screaming silently as his corrupted body brings ruin to the world he once protected. In the depths of the 9 hells, chained in her prison, waits Tiamat, the 5-headed dragon goddess. Each of her heads represents a different chromatic color: red, blue, green, black, and white. Each head can unleash its own distinct breath. Weapon: acid that melts flesh from bone, lightning that fries nervous systems, fire that reduces matter to ash, cold that freezes blood and veins, and toxic fumes that turn lungs to sludge. She can unleash these attacks almost simultaneously, creating a storm of elemental destruction that nothing mortal can withstand. In many campaign settings, entire cults dedicate themselves to freeing Tiamat from her prison, schemes that span centuries and involve countless lives sacrificed to the goal of bringing their goddess into the mortal world. For Tiamat, the mortal world is not something to protect or even rule in the conventional sense. It is her personal hoard, a treasure to be claimed and possessed, every living thing in it merely another gem in her collection. In the world of Game of Thrones, dragons had been extinct for generations, until Daenerys Targaryen walked into a pyre and emerged with 3 hatchlings. Among them, Drogon grows from a creature small enough to perch on a woman's shoulder into a city-terrorizing beast in just a few years. The speed of his growth is staggering, demonstrating that dragons of Valyrian bloodline can reach terrifying power in a fraction of a human lifetime. Drogon's flames are not merely hot, they are hot enough to melt stone defenses and turn armored soldiers into ash in seconds. He becomes functionally equivalent to a flying siege engine, a weapon of mass destruction that makes castles obsolete and armies irrelevant. A single dragon can negate centuries of military advancement, rendering traditional warfare meaningless in the face of aerial fire. In the ancient history of Middle-earth, during the First Age, there arose a dragon whose size defied comprehension, Ancalagon the Black. The descriptions of his death alone tell us everything we need to know about his scale. When Ancalagon fell from the sky in defeat, his body crushed an entire range of volcanic mountains. Not a single mountain, not a valley. An entire mountain range was obliterated by the impact of his corpse. He led a vast host of dragons in the final desperate gambit of a dark god against the armies of the West, serving as the ultimate living weapon. Ancalagon represents dragons at their most apocalyptic, creatures so enormous that their deaths reshape geography, beings whose very existence makes the concerns of smaller folk seem almost laughably insignificant. In a lighter but no less interesting vein, we find Charizard from the Pokemon world, a dragon-like creature whose fiery breath is said to be hot enough to melt boulders and create new rock formations by melting and cooling terrain. But what makes Charizard truly dragon-like is not just its power, but its pride. Despite being classified as a Pokemon that should obey its trainer, Charizard often refuses to obey weak or inexperienced trainers. It acts more like a proud dragon than a typical obedient monster, judging its trainer and finding them wanting. A trainer must earn Charizard's respect through strength, wisdom, and the bond they've built. It's a reminder that draconic pride transcends settings. Whether in high fantasy or creature-catching games, dragons demand to be treated as equals, not servants. Seath the Scaleless from Dark Souls presents perhaps the most tragic perversion of draconic nature. Born without the stone scales that granted his kin their near immortality, Seath was different, vulnerable, envious. In his desperation to transcend his limitation, he betrayed his own kind, siding with the gods in their war against the everlasting dragons. His reward was forbidden knowledge about immortality and the means to pursue it through crystal magic. But this pursuit corrupted him utterly. Seath conducts horrific experiments on living beings in his Duke's archives, filling his domain with warped, crystalline abominations, creatures that were once human or beast, now twisted into grotesque forms by his obsessive research. He achieved a form of immortality, yes, but lost his sanity in the process. Seath shows us that the pursuit of eternal life can be its own kind of death, a transformation so complete that what survives is no longer the being that began the journey. In the cold reaches of space, among the stars and asteroids, flies Ridley, a draconic alien warlord whose name is synonymous with terror across multiple worlds. Ridley's regenerative biology allows him to return from seemingly any defeat, sometimes as a cybernetic horror, sometimes genetically altered, but always returning, always threatening. He is the monster that cannot be killed, the nightmare that won't end. He is infamous throughout his galaxy, not just for his power, but for his cruelty. He personally led the pirate raid that killed Samus Aran's parents, burning her colony and leaving her an orphan. Ridley is hatred given wings, proving that dragons need not breathe fire to be terrifying. Sometimes the most fearsome thing about them is their refusal to stay dead, their ability to return again and again, making every victory against them temporary. These legendary dragons have been adapted and reimagined across countless formats. In Dragonlance novels that tie to tabletop role-playing games, Takisi's manifests as a multi-headed dragon queen manipulating wars from the abyss, her schemes spanning generations. The Forgotten Realms depict an entire draconic pantheon led by Bahamut and Tiamat, with kobolds and half-dragons serving as fervent worshippers who build shrines and wage holy wars in their names. Dungeons and Dragons lore casts Io as the primal dragon creator, God, the parent deity from whom all draconic gods descended, his body split in an ancient cosmic battle to create twin aspects of dragonkind. In Tolkien's deeper lore, some interpretations suggest Smaug hoards not just gold, but knowledge. Divine secrets about Middle-earth's rings of power, embodying a form of avaricious godhood where information becomes as valuable as treasure. Magic. The Gathering's Nicol Bolas schemes across multiple planes as a god pharaoh, reshaping entire worlds to serve his incomprehensible long-term plans. Dragon-focused board games like Descent portray ancient worms as slumbering deities that awaken periodically to judge mortal realms, determining which civilizations deserve to continue and which should be scoured clean. Final Fantasy's Bahamut consistently appears as a being who tests heroes with apocalyptic displays of power, his summons serving as trials that separate the merely strong from the truly heroic. In Dungeons & Dragons, ancient metallic dragons like the gold variety amass libraries that rival elven archives, their hoards consisting not just of gold, but of scrolls and tomes containing prophecies from eons past, whispered secrets that could reshape the future if spoken to the right ears. In more obscure settings like Draken, elemental dragon gods exist as cosmic judges who deploy their prince and princess heirs to enact divine cataclysms when they deem civilizations unworthy. These dragons are not antagonists in the traditional sense, but cosmic quality control, ensuring that only societies meeting certain standards of development or morality are allowed to persist. Some interpretations of Smaug suggest he guards the Arkenstone not merely out of greed, but because it serves as a cosmic key, an artifact that, if properly understood and wielded, could unlock forgotten secrets of the Valar themselves, making his hoard protection not just avarice, but a form of cosmic custodianship, preventing mortals from accessing knowledge they are not ready to possess. These are the icons of the ages. Smaug and his perfect memory of treasure, Draco and his willing sacrifice, Bahamut and his tests of worthiness, Alduin and his inevitable apocalypse, Deathwing and his tragic fall, Tiamat and her fivefold fury, Drogon and his impossible growth, and Calagon and his world, shaking death, Charizard and his proud defiance, Seath and his corrupted immortality, Ridley and his eternal return. Each has left an indelible mark, not just on their worlds, but on the concept of dragons itself, becoming archetypes that future dragons will be measured against. They are the legends that make all other dragon stories possible, the foundation upon which the mythology of dragonkind is built. Chapter 7: Weavers of Fate. Magic systems and prophecies. Beyond individual legends, dragons weave into the very magic and prophecies that guide destinies. Dragons don't just exist in stories, they command the magic and foretell the fates that bind us all. In Terry Pratchett's Discworld, dragons take on a characteristically unique form. The Noble. Swamp dragons are highly unstable, fire-breathing creatures whose internal chemistry teeters perpetually on the edge of catastrophe. These dragons are so explosive that they can literally self-destruct if stressed, their bodies functioning like living chemical bombs with temperamental fuses. It's a humorous, yet strangely realistic take on dragon biology. Imagine a creature whose digestive system produces volatile compounds, where simple indigestion could result in spontaneous detonation. Swamp dragon breeders must be part chemist, part therapist, constantly monitoring their charges for signs of distress that might lead to a very messy end. In the competitive world of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the Blue Eyes White Dragon has transcended being merely a powerful card to become an icon of draconic might. This legendary creature is so central to the game's mythology that multiple special fusion forms and alternate versions exist, each one transforming it into an even more fearsome entity. Blue Eyes, Ultimate Dragon, Neo Blue Eyes, Ultimate Dragon, Blue Eyes, Alternative Dragon. The list goes on, each iteration representing a new pinnacle of power. The Blue Eyes White Dragon demonstrates how dragons can evolve beyond their original forms, how legendary status creates opportunities for transformation and enhancement that lesser creatures could never access. In The Elder Scrolls v. Skyrim, dragons literally use their own language as magic, creating perhaps the most elegant integration of speech and sorcery in fantasy. When a dragon shouts a word like "fuz," meaning force, it doesn't simply describe force, it becomes force, a physical blast that can throw armored warriors off cliffs or shatter stone walls. This is the Thu'um, the voice, and it operates on a principle that language and reality are not separate things. Words, when spoken correctly by those with draconic souls, reshape the world by commanding it in the tongue it was created with. Dragonborn characters learn these words of power through a process both intimate and violent, by absorbing dragon souls. Killing a dragon becomes a way to study its grammar of reality, to literally consume the linguistic knowledge embedded in its very essence and add new vocabulary to a shout-based magic system. Each dragon slain is a lesson learned. Each soul absorbed is a chapter read in the primordial textbook of creation. Dungeons & Dragons creates a color-coded system of sorcery where dragon type dictates magical nature with absolute precision. A red dragon's very presence twists the landscape with fire and greed, its lair gradually transforming into a volcanic hellscape simply because that's what red dragon magic does to reality. A gold dragon channels holy or protective magic, its territory becoming a haven of safety and prosperity. This isn't metaphorical, it's mechanical, codified in the rules. Dragonborn player characters and sorcerers with draconic bloodlines inherit this connection as concrete game mechanics. Damage types, resistances, spell choices all flow from dragon ancestry. A sorcerer descended from a copper dragon can generate acid and employ trickster magic. One with silver dragon heritage channels cold and healing. Dragon blood becomes destiny, written in character sheet statistics. Proof that in some worlds, what you inherit isn't just features, but fundamental magical architecture. In Dark Souls, Seath the Scaleless demonstrates that magic research can drive even a dragon to madness. He traded the natural immortality of his draconic kind for a laboratory powered by crystals and sorcery, seeking to achieve through study what others possessed by birth. His experiments created a magic system where knowledge of souls and crystals allows characters to reshape bodies and minds, to transgress the boundaries between life and death, between matter and thought. But this power comes at a terrible cost. Corruption seeps into those who delve too deeply. Madness follows understanding too profound for mortal or draconic minds to bear. Seath's domain in the Dupe's archive stands as a warning that some knowledge transforms the seeker into something that can no longer remember why they sought it. In Warcraft, each dragonflight embodies an entire school of magic that shapes the world at its most fundamental level. The bronze dragons rule over time itself, their magic allowing them to perceive past, present, and future as a single tapestry they can walk through and occasionally stitch together differently. The green dragons govern dreams and nature, maintaining the emerald dream, the blueprint from which all living things are made. The blue dragons once commanded arcane power itself, understanding the fundamental forces that make magic possible. These dragonflights are effectively living, winged spheres of magic, each one a mobile domain of power. Mortal mages tap into these same forces, but they draw from a well while dragons are the well. Dragons can rewrite timelines, alter entire ecosystems, seal off dream realms, or tear open new ones. They don't just use magic. They are magic, personified and conscious. In many Final Fantasy games, the dragon Bahamut serves as a cosmic examiner, transforming access to high-tier magic into a story event rather than simple character progression. Bahamut is not just a monster to defeat, but a test to pass. A gatekeeper who only grants his overwhelming summon magic to those who prove themselves worthy in battle. Players must face him, survive his devastating attacks, demonstrate that they possess the strength and determination to wield such power responsibly. Only then does Bahamut acknowledge their worth and grant them the right to call down dragon-shaped apocalyptic energy attacks. It's a system that makes magic feel earned rather than purchased, where the greatest powers come not from leveling up, but from proving yourself to the dragon who guards them. Nicol Bolas in Magic, the Gathering represents the apex of dragons as masters of magic itself. This elder dragon's intellect and planeswalking abilities allow him to bend entire worlds and their magic systems to his will. He doesn't just use magic, he edits it, changing the fundamental rules of how spells work. On cards, his design reflects this narrative power. Through mechanics, he draws extra cards, representing his vast knowledge. He steals opponents' resources, demonstrating his ability to take what others possess. He weaponizes any spell he touches. Bolas implies that dragons at his level of power can fundamentally alter how magic functions for everyone else, that they operate at a level where they don't cast spells so much as rewrite the rules by which spells exist. In the Dragonlance setting, dragons are tightly linked to the gods of good and evil, making a dragon's alignment more than personal morality. It's a reflection of divine magic sources. Metallic dragons serve the gods of light, chromatic dragons the gods of darkness. Dragon riders and dragon-themed spellcasters effectively pick a side in a cosmic theological war, and their dragons become both weapons and mobile temples. To ride a dragon is to carry your patron deity's power across the battlefield, to be a living avatar of divine will. The magic that flows between rider and dragon is thus not merely arcane, but holy or profane, charged with the approval or condemnation of the gods themselves. In A Song of Ice and Fire, dragons act as living catalysts that amplify blood magic to extraordinary degrees. The birth of Daenerys' dragons coincides with a ritual that mingles fire, death, and sacrifice in very specific ways. What emerges is not just 3 hatchlings, but a fundamental change in the world's magical potential. The existence of dragons is linked to the strength of sorcery itself. When dragons vanish from the world, higher-tier magic becomes unreliable or fades almost entirely. Spells that once worked fail. Prophecies grow clouded. Fire magic weakens. But when dragons return, so does the full potency of the arcane arts. Dragons are not just magical creatures. They are magical amplifiers, their presence strengthening the very fabric of enchantment throughout the world. Dragons intertwine with prophecy in ways both grand and intimate. In the Wheel of Time, the dragon is not a creature, but a prophesied human champion whose destiny is tied to either saving or breaking the world. This dragon reborn carries the weight of cosmic prophecy, knowing that his actions will determine whether reality continues or collapses. The title of dragon becomes synonymous with world-altering destiny, with choices that echo across ages. In Shadowrun's cyberpunk future, great dragons like Dunkelzahn operate as mega-influential political players whose schemes dwarf those of corporations and nations. Dunkelzahn even ran for president, and when he was assassinated, his will became one of the most important documents in the world. A complex series of bequests and conditions that drove entire campaigns and shaped geopolitics for decades. Dragons in Shadowrun demonstrate that prophecy need not be mystical pronouncements from oracles, but can instead be carefully orchestrated. Long-term planning, schemes so intricate that they function as self-fulfilling prophecies. Smaug from the Hobbit trilogy fulfills an ancient dwarven prophecy by awakening after 171 years of slumber. His fire heralds not just destruction, but the return of a lost kingdom, the catalyst that will bring Thorin Oakenshield and his company to reclaim Erebor. Sometimes a dragon's role in prophecy is simply to be the obstacle that must be overcome for destiny to unfold, the test that separates heroes from the merely ambitious. In the film Dragon Slayer, Vermithrax, pejorative embodies a foretold black death. Dragon whose very existence perpetuates a terrible system. A tyrannical king maintains power by offering virgins as sacrifice to appease the beast. The prophecy bound to Vermithrax is one of cycles, sacrifice, appeasement, temporary safety, repeat. Only when a chosen virgin sacrifice becomes instead the one who defeats the dragon does the prophecy reach its true conclusion, ending both the dragon's reign and the king's corrupt rule. In Tolkien's Middle-earth, dragons under Morgoth serve as prophetic cataclysms. Their rise signals the unraveling of elven alliances, the beginning of ages of darkness. When dragons appear, you know that great kingdoms will fall, that the world is changing in ways that cannot be reversed. They are heralds of transformation, often tragic transformation, but transformation nonetheless. The dragons of Game of Thrones novels are prophesied as fire made flesh, birthed under a bleeding star to restore a fallen house's rule. Their very existence is tied to prophecy so deeply that every aspect of their hatching, the timing, the circumstances, the sacrifices made, seems orchestrated by fate itself. They are not just creatures, but living fulfillments of ancient predictions. Skyrim's Alduin, the World Eater, arrives as per Nordic prophecy to devour the world at the end of time. The prophecy states he will consume all of creation, that his victory is inevitable. Yet the same prophecy speaks of the Dragonborn, the one being who can challenge this inevitability. Alduin's prophetic role creates a paradox. He is both certain to succeed and certain to be stopped, and the resolution of this paradox drives the entire narrative. In Dragon Age, ancient dragons awaken in cycles foretold by the old gods. When they rise as archdemon forms, they spark blights, catastrophic invasions that test the Grey Wardens and determine whether civilization will endure. These prophesied cycles give history a structure, a rhythm of crisis and response that has repeated for ages. Dungeons and dragons. Dragons often guard chromatic prophecies, ancient predictions written in scales and blood. Red dragons in particular are associated with prophecies of war, their hoarded artifacts sometimes serving as keys to conflicts foretold centuries ago. A single artifact in a dragon's hoard might be the trigger for a war prophesied before kingdoms now fighting even existed. In more whimsical settings like Myth Adventures board games, lung dragons from the celestial bureaucracy sometimes shirk their prophetic duties to play dragon poker instead. Their negligence causes chaotic realm upheavals when prophecies go unfulfilled, proving that even in humor, dragons' relationship with fate is fundamental. When they fail to maintain their cosmic duties, reality itself becomes unstable. Nicol Bolas. In Magic, the Gathering orchestrates multiversal prophecies of domination, his schemes spanning planes and millennia. His twin resurrection, the death and rebirth of his physical and planeswalker selves, fulfills elder dragon cycles prophesied eons ago. Bolas doesn't just follow prophecy, he authors it, crafting situations where the predicted future is one he himself has designed. These are the weavers of fate dragons, whose very language reshapes reality, whose bloodlines determine magical capacity, whose presence amplifies or diminishes sorcery throughout the world. They serve as examiners who grant magic to the worthy, as living spheres of magical power, as catalysts that make blood magic possible, and as subjects and authors of prophecies that bind the future as surely as the past. Dragons command not just physical power, but the fundamental architecture of magic and destiny itself. proving that in fantasy worlds, understanding dragons means understanding how reality itself functions. Chapter 8. Divine Flames. Dragons as gods and cosmic guardians. As guardians of balance and deities of power, dragons transcend mortality to become eternal forces. Ultimately, dragons ascend to godhood, maintaining the balance of existence itself, reminding us why they captivate our imaginations. In some multiverses, the dragon gods themselves maintain a delicate cosmic equilibrium through a secret pact. For every ancient metallic dragon that ascends to draconic sainthood, proving itself through centuries of noble deeds and selfless protection, a chromatic dragon, somewhere in the cosmos, is quietly nudged toward villainy. It's not fate exactly, but a gentle cosmic pressure. Opportunities for cruelty appearing more frequently, treasures that inspire greater greed falling into their claws, moments where the easiest choice is also the darkest one. The dragon gods understand something fundamental about stories and reality. There must be tension, there must be conflict, there must be heroes and villains. Too many saints and the narrative of existence becomes static, boring, meaningless. The cosmic story needs its dragons of light and its dragons of shadow, and the gods ensure that balance is maintained, even if it means occasionally sacrificing the free will of individual dragons to preserve the drama of creation itself. Yet the universe rewards those who defy expectations. Dragon oracles teach that when a dragon truly rebels against its expected alignment, a benevolent red dragon who protects villages instead of terrorizing them, or a tyrannical silver dragon who has turned its noble gifts toward oppression, the universe takes notice. These anomalies, these dragons who refuse to play their assigned roles, are rewarded with a strange form of immortality. Fate itself warps to ensure their legend is recorded in at least 3 different worlds, their story spreading across dimensions like ripples across reality's surface. The compassionate red dragon becomes a myth told in multiple realities. The corrupt silver dragon, a cautionary tale whispered in 3 separate cosmologies. It's as if the universe itself appreciates the breaking of narrative convention enough to preserve these rebels in the collective memory of multiple worlds. The oldest dragons in many fantasy settings are worshipped as world-forge worms, creator deities who carved continents from molten stone with their claws and cooled the boiling oceans with their breath. These are not merely ancient dragons, but primordial entities who existed before the world had taken its current shape. They are the sculptors of geography, the architects of the physical realm. In games and novels, they appear as distant, slumbering deities, so vast and old that they're barely distinguishable from geological features. A mountain range might actually be a sleeping, world-forge worm, its scales mistaken for peaks, its breath the warm winds that blow from volcanic vents. Their awakening signals not just danger, but transformation. A new age beginning, or an apocalypse that will reset the world to be forged anew. Some settings feature a divine covenant known as the Pact of Scales, where mortal kingdoms may exist only through draconic sufferance. In this arrangement, kingdoms must maintain sacred hoards on behalf of draconic gods, vast collections of treasure housed in temple, vaults tended by priests who never spend a single coin. These hoards are not offerings in the traditional sense, but anchors, spiritual batteries that power the dragon patron's protective blessing over the realm. If a king allows one of these hoard temples to be plundered, whether through war, theft, or simple negligence, the consequences are immediate and devastating. The dragon patron withdraws its protection, and suddenly invading armies find their strength supernaturally amplified. Soldiers strike harder, arrows fly truer, siege weapons become unnaturally accurate. Monsters that once avoided the kingdom now swarm toward it, drawn by the vacuum left when draconic protection vanishes. The message is clear. The hoard is not the dragons alone, but a compact between divinity and mortality, and breaking that compact has consequences that shake kingdoms to their foundations. In certain fantasy RPGs and tabletop campaigns, dragons serve as guardians of souls rather than treasure. Each dragon brood is assigned to watch over a different type of spirit. One brood protects the souls of warriors who died in battle, ensuring they reach their promised afterlife of eternal combat and glory. Another watches over the souls of children who died too young, shepherding them to realms of peace and play. A third guards the souls of mages, protecting their accumulated knowledge and ensuring it's not lost to oblivion. In these worlds, necromancy is not just an affront to the natural order, but a direct assault on the dragon that shepherds those souls. To raise the dead is to steal from a dragon's charge, and the punishment is swift and absolute. Necromancers don't just face angry mobs or inquisitorial orders. They face dragons who consider their very existence an act of war against the cosmic order. Some card and board game lore presents a beautiful concept: that each constellation in the night sky is actually the fossilized outline of an astral dragon god. These beings existed before stars, and when they died or ascended beyond physical form, their essences were written into the heavens themselves. The stars we see are the scales of these dragon gods, arranged in patterns that preserve their shapes for eternity. When specific combinations of these star dragons align in the sky above, priests with the proper knowledge can draw them into the battlefield as guardian avatars. This explains certain game mechanics where particular card combinations or board positions temporarily summon overwhelming dragon entities. You're not creating something new, but calling down a fragment of an astral god whose body has become the firmament itself. Fantasy cities and novels and games sometimes build colossal dragon statues that transcend mere decoration to become divine sentinels. These statues are not carved from ordinary stone, but constructed according to sacred geometries and bound to slumbering draconic spirits. For centuries, they appear to be nothing more than impressive architecture, monuments to draconic power or devotion. But if the city faces existential danger, an invasion it cannot repel, a plague it cannot cure, a disaster it cannot survive, the statue awakens. Stone begins to crack and fall away like a chrysalis breaking open. Beneath the masonry lies a glowing guardian form, the true dragon spirit emerging from its long sleep to defend the city that has housed it. These city guardian dragons often have no memory of their previous lives or forms. They know only that they are bound to protect, that this is their purpose, and they will fulfill it even if it costs them everything. Some settings treat dragons as gods of time itself, cosmic entities who coil around the world like a spring wound tight. Their scales mark eras, each scale representing a period of history, and as they slowly uncoil, time moves forward. These timekeeper dragons possess the miraculous ability to rewind brief moments, to turn back the clock on disasters that should have been permanent. In game mechanics, this manifests as the ability for a party to re-roll catastrophic failures. But this intervention comes at a cost. Using a timekeeper dragon's miracle attracts the dragon's attention. It knows someone is pulled at the thread of causality, and it will remember. Future demands will follow. Perhaps the dragon requires a service, or seeks information, or simply wishes to understand why mortals thought their moment important enough to warrant temporal intervention. The gift of undoing fate is never truly free. The Covenant of Twin Wings proposes something both comforting and unsettling, that every mortal hero has an unseen draconic patron, a cosmic pairing they may never know exists. The dragon watches from beyond the veil, observing the hero's journey, waiting for a specific moment. When the hero reaches a point of true selflessness or sacrifice, when they make a choice that costs them everything but saves others, the hidden dragon briefly manifests as a spectral guardian. For just one moment, the dragon intervenes, granting a single miraculous protection or empowerment, ensuring that the hero's sacrifice achieves its purpose. Then the dragon vanishes back beyond the veil, and the hero may never know they were saved, may attribute their survival to luck or coincidence. The Covenant suggests that every heroic deed is secretly a partnership between mortal and dragon, that no true hero ever stands alone. Some worlds reinterpret the dragon horde in a fascinating way, viewing it not as greed, but as magical infrastructure. In these settings, the horde acts as a literal magical barrier, a protective field around the dragon's domain. Each coin and relic functions as a scale, in an invisible shield. The greater the horde, the stronger the protection. This means that stealing from a dragon doesn't just anger it. It weakens the entire region's spiritual defenses against demons, eldritch horrors, and creatures from beyond reality. A village near a dragon's lair might hate the dragon for occasionally raiding their livestock, but they're protected from far worse things by the dragon's horde shield. If adventurers kill the dragon and loot its treasure, they may doom the region to invasions from nightmares that the horde had been keeping at bay for centuries. In apocalyptic tabletop legends, there exists a prophecy of the last dragon, a single draconic entity that will descend when the world's faith is nearly extinguished. This dragon god arrives as both judge and executioner, but its judgment is unusual. It weighs civilizations not by their piety to gods, not by their devotion to law or order, but by how they treated lesser creatures and the natural world. Did they show mercy to animals? Did they preserve forests? Did they respect the lives of those weaker than themselves? Based on this judgment, the last dragon makes a choice. If the world passes the test, the dragon becomes a radiant world guardian, a protective deity that ensures the age to come will be one of harmony between civilization and nature. If the world fails, the last dragon becomes an all-consuming storm of flame, scouring the world clean so that something better might eventually emerge from the ashes. Some fantasy games and novels feature dragon hatchlings born already infused with divine memory, tiny beings who carry the knowledge of gods despite having just broken free from their eggs. Temples keep these young dragons in specially prepared sanctums, treating them with the reverence due to living oracles. The dragon's cryptic dreams are recorded by scribes who work in shifts, never letting a word be lost. Their playful sketches on stone or parchment, drawn with claws or traced in spilled water, are interpreted by wise priests as prophecies, tactical guidance for wars, or solutions to political intrigues. A hatchling dragon idly drawing circles might be predicting a siege. One that arranges gems in strange patterns might be revealing the locations of enemy forces. These infant oracles are treated with extraordinary care, for while they possess divine knowledge, they're still children, playful and easily distracted, sometimes revealing the fate of kingdoms between naps and snacks. In Dungeons and Dragons: Forgotten Realms, Tiamat stands as perhaps the most iconic dragon deity. This five-headed goddess has each head corresponding to a different chromatic dragon type: red, blue, green, black, and white. She is not merely powerful, but represents the divine embodiment of draconic terror, the ultimate expression of what dragons can be when they ascend to godhood. Tiamat is imprisoned in the 9 hells, but entire cults work across generations to free her, believing that her release will usher in an age where dragons reclaim their rightful place as the dominant force in reality. In the Monster Hunter series, elder dragons occupy a space between mortal creature and divine force. They are classified as calamity-level entities whose mere appearance can alter ecosystems permanently. Where an elder dragon travels, weather patterns change. Biomes shift. Entire regions are transformed by their presence. They are not quite gods, but they operate on a scale that makes the distinction academic. When an elder dragon appears, civilizations mobilize not to hunt a beast, but to respond to a natural disaster given form and will. In Chrono Cross, the dragon god represents artificial divinity, an entity created rather than born, which was split into elemental dragons after a cataclysmic war. This fragmented deity exists as multiple aspects, each embodying a different element, and the quest to reunite or permanently separate these aspects drives much of the game's narrative. It's a reminder that dragon gods need not be natural phenomena, but can be created, constructed, engineered, and that the fracturing of such a being can itself become a cosmic crisis. These are the divine flames, dragons who have transcended mortality to become creators, judges, guardians, and gods themselves. They maintain cosmic balance through secret pacts, reward those who defy expectations, forge worlds with their claws and breath, protect souls across the afterlife, and serve as living embodiments of time, fate, and divine will. They remind us that dragons captivate our imaginations not just because they are powerful, but because they represent something fundamental about existence itself. The possibility of transcendence, the potential for individuals to become forces that shape reality at its deepest levels. Dragons show us that the line between mortal and divine is not fixed, but permeable, that with enough time, will, and power, even a creature of flesh and scale can become eternal. And so we reach the end of our journey through the realms of dragons. We've traveled from their immortal souls to their divine flames, from their bizarre biology to their cosmic guardianship, from their moral alignments to the prophecies they weave and fulfill. We've met legendary dragons like Smaug and Bahamut, Alduin and Deathwing. We've explored how dragons forge worlds, how they bond with mortals, how they command magic itself. We've seen them as villains and saviors, as ancient worms and newborn hatchlings, as forces of destruction and pillars of creation. But perhaps most importantly, we've remembered why dragons capture our imaginations so completely. They represent something fundamental: the possibility of transcendence, the power to reshape reality, the bridge between mortal and divine. They are what we might become if we lived long enough, grew wise enough, became powerful enough. They are eternity-given wings. As you drift toward sleep now, let these dragons watch over your rest. Imagine their wings creating gentle breezes, their ancient breathing the rhythm of your own slowing breath. Let their hoards of knowledge become dreams, their flights across impossible skies become the journeys of your sleeping mind. The dragons are patient. They have waited for eons, and they will wait through your night, guardians of the threshold between waking and dreaming, between conscious thought and peaceful rest. Sleep well, traveler. The dragons will still be here when you wake, eternal and unchanging, waiting in the mists of fantasy worlds for your return. Good night.